What is going on, baseball fans? What is going on, Yankee fans? We are back at it once again, bringing you the state of the franchise, where we examine all facets of the organization. And tonight we have a very full house and a packed panel to be able to discuss what we believe is the best team in the world, the New York Yankees. So I want to thank everybody for joining me here on this video. We'll just run around the room and introduce ourselves really quick. And we'll start with our guest of honor. Chris, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm the co-host of NY MLB Talk. We cover the Yankees, the Mets, and we get into all baseball as well. You know, we're on YouTube and everything else, TikTok and Twitter as well. To follow us there. But yeah, you know, we do 2 shows a week, Mondays and Fridays. We always have, not always, but we try to bring in guests as much as we can. You know, get some former players, New York Times bestsellers, stuff like that. We've got a pretty good variety of guests so far. That's about it. Rob is my co-host, or we're co-hosts. He does the Mets, I do the Yankees, and we just have a good time.
Absolutely. And obviously, to join me from the Baseball Banter Broadcast here, we have none other than the 2 co-hosts of the Bronx Muchachos podcast, Dave, Mark. What's going on, guys?
What up?
What's up?
And another guest of ours, another co-host of ours that covers both the Yankees and the Chicago Cubs with Northrop on the north side, Chris Northrop. What's going on, Chris?
Hey there.
All right. So now, as we usually discuss this organization, as we do with the state of the franchise, we kind of take a brief look back at last season. And obviously, it did not play out the way we had hoped or would have liked. What are some of the thoughts on just kind of wrapping up the 2025 season before we dive in on this upcoming year?
Do you really want my honest opinion on
Go for
this?
it.
Go for it. Yeah, break the ice.
I mean, it's trash. Absolute trash. Injuries up the wazoo. It didn't help losing Garrett Cole at the beginning of the year in spring training, blowing his elbow out, needing Tommy John surgery. Fast forward a little bit later. You know, LeMahieu goes down and is in witness protection for literally half the season. Giancarlo Stanton goes down. Oswaldo Cabrera snaps his ankle, sliding into home plate. What else? Oh, Anthony Volpe and his non-shoulder issue. So that screwed us. Not being able to get out of our own way. Oh, Aaron Judge's elbow, I believe, was also an issue in the season. And, you know, just going through that.
Max Fried blisters. Don't forget the blisters. Max Fried blisters.
Thank you, Mark. Yep, thank you. An erratic
Luis had the shoulder issue starting off the season.
Yep, an erratic bullpen that couldn't put a fire out with 10,000 gallons of water if they tried, or find their way out of a wet paper bag for that matter. And you know, picking up spare parts of the trade deadline. Jose Caballero is actually one of the better ones that they picked up at the trade deadline. But yeah, it was brutal. Probably stung more than losing the 2024 World Series to the Dodgers, just because of everything that happened. And the way they were performing at the beginning of the season, you thought for sure they had a division locked up, and then all of a sudden down the stretch they're in a heavyweight punch for punch match with the Toronto Blue Jays out of nowhere. And it was very aggravating to watch. Very aggravating to watch, for a lack of better terms.
I'm very proud of you for keeping your composure throughout that whole.
Dude, I'm just numb to this. Like, how many weeks have we just talked about like how much of BS this offseason was, what last season was? I mean, there were a few bright spots. Cam Schlittler, you know, came out of literally nowhere. Pitched 1 game in spring training, the one I went to, and I was like, who is this kid? Like, non-ranked prospect comes out of nowhere from AA all the way up to the majors and shoved when the team needed him to. Obviously, the start against the Blue Jays wasn't that great, but neither starters really had good outings against the Blue Jays in that ALDS. I was just glad that he shoved it down the Red Sox throats. And that wild card
game. Better than the 2 other guys that are making hundreds of $1 millions more than him.
Yeah, they should swap contracts then. But
you know the crazy thing is, right? As bad as it ended, as bad as the season went, if they won 1 more game during the regular season, and you could pick it against any team, if they would have won 1 more game against the Marlins, the Rockies, whoever, they would have had the number 1 seed in the American League. They were tied, obviously, with the Blue Jays for the best record, but obviously the Blue Jays owned us last year in the regular season, so they won the tiebreaker. But if they won 1 more game, they would have had that. They wouldn't have had to play the wild card round. They could have been sitting there waiting into the division round for, let's say, the Blue Jays. Maybe the Blue Jays beat the Red Sox in the wild card round. And then we would have had them with the home field, with our pitching set up the way we wanted to and all of that. Maybe we still lose that division series, right? Maybe we still lose. But there's a chance that maybe with the Blue Jays kind of fighting through a series with the Red Sox, maybe it's a different, it's a whole different season. And it comes down to just one game. And how many one games did we blow? Like David, like you mentioned, how many?
Yeah, thanks to Devin Williams.
Oh my God, Devin Williams! It was it was horrible. That first half, it was just horrendous. And even when he started pitching well, you still were like, you still didn't feel comfortable with him pitching, even when he was pitching decent. And then finally, thank God, he's in Queens now, so I'm totally happy about that.
Somebody else's problem.
Yeah, exactly. Get rid of him. So, but yeah, that's all I kept thinking about. For the past 2 months, I'm like, if we won one more game, that could have changed, the outcome in the playoffs. Could have. I'm not saying it would have.
I don't think it would have. I mean, that Blue Jays team was on fire. It didn't matter where or who they played. They just showed up at our house, punched us in the face, and left.
Well, they did it. They did it all season. The Yankees got smacked around all season by the Blue Jays. But to what Chris was, but to Chris's point, I don't just blame the bullpen for the failures of last year. Put it more on Boone, because guess what? This is now third year in a row this happened, that the June Boone swoons that last too long, and he does not make adjustments.
Yep.
I've said it before, keep saying this still, I'm blue in the face. Aaron Boone should not be the manager of the team. He should never have gotten any of the extensions he's gotten. I feel like, and whatever, it's been reported that Hal Steinbrenner was going to win, wants to keep this crew together as long as he can. He wants these guys to win. He wants Cashman. He wants Boone. He wants Mike Fishman. God awful Mike Fishman. Jesus Christ. I don't need to get into that.
Glorified insurance adjuster.
Yeah, that's kind of like when I go down the Anthony Volpe rants over there. But that group of executives, he wants them to win, and they're not cutting it as executives. Boone is not cutting it as the manager. He has not cut it as the manager the entire time. Because let's be honest with you. Needing the one game, this is not the first time Boone has let his foot off the gas or has not gotten the job done. 2019, they could have had home field advantage against Houston. Guess what? Boone did not push the buttons and did not try to push them to get the home field advantage. We're going to get in. We'll be fine at that point. We'll take the second seat. It's like he has this notion of, and this probably comes from up top with Cashman and how the minute we get in everything, it's a crapshoot. How many times do we keep hearing them say that? It's a crapshoot when you get in the playoffs. Crapshoot. You know what? They don't believe in a lot of things that they're doing. Now, granted, I think that the tone was set for last season in the offseason, when they could not seal the deal and bring Juan Soto back. Now, I got a lot of problems with that because you hear a lot of reports that Aaron Judge, the co-GM, as I like to at this point that I like to refer to him as, did not reach out, did not want to bring back the generational player that got them to the World Series together. That right then and there is a problem for me because everyone saw what was there. You saw what you had in the 1-2 combination with the two of them, and you could have built and then build around them from there. But instead they didn't do it. They brought in Cody Bellinger. I like the move that they did for that. They had Grisham, whatever. I still don't think he's going to have a great season this year, but we'll get into that later. Max Fried, I was a big fan of Max Fried coming in. They had Devin Williams at the beginning. I think everybody was all happy getting him in there. Once we got him, that's a different story. But getting him in there to solidify the back end of the bullpen was something that everyone was going for. And I think that everyone going into that season last year was happy, and they were like, okay, we don't have Soto, but we got more pieces around the way and more pieces that we can actually we can use. And I think everyone thought the team was going to be a better team than they were the year before because the defense was going to be stronger, especially after watching that god-awful fifth inning of the World Series where you just drop ball after dumb mistake and after mental mistake. Guess what? None of that changed. I was down in Miami for one of the games where we watched Jazz Chisholm get pecked off at first base on a pop-up to second base. All right? How many times do we see stupid base running errors? How many times do we see the young kids? Jason, Austin Wells, Volpe, that whenever Volpe could get on base, because that was always few and far between. But how many times did they get on base and they don't know how many outs there were? They don't know what the count was. That is problems in and of itself, and that's organizational problems.
How many outs there were?
That's exactly what I just said. Yeah, like it just comes down from Boone down. It's not teaching them the right way. I mean,
absolutely.
That's the problem. That's the problem I see, and I can't see them. And while Boone's here, I don't see that being fixed.
Yeah, and that's part of the biggest problem, And when you look at what this team has done through the tenure of Boone, it's every year. Every year, there's no improvement. There's no change. We see them get off to a hot start, and as you said, Mark, the June Boone swoon happens every single year, and the team then falters from there. And it's not until September where they realize, like, oh wait, we got to get to the playoffs, and then try and turn it back on. But by that point, they've already kind of shot themselves in the foot, getting to a point where they can be the number one seat in the division, the number one seat in the American League, and give themselves an easier path to the World Series. I mean, you saw when they actually did something positively in 2024, they ended up in the World Series. Now, obviously, there was a lot of talk that year with the American League as a whole being down, but nevertheless, the Yankees were able to get there for the first time in a long time. And we see that when this team can put itself in a position to be successful, they tend to have better often than not better results.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say, when I think back on the season, I think back, just to build off what you just said, Hal is interested in building championship caliber teams.
They're not even that.
Not winning teams, not champion.
Yeah.
He wants to be in the race. He doesn't want to win the race. That's, I think, when I look back to the season, the disappointment in this team, and we can build on this as we go forward, that they missed the opportunities to improve the team just when you think that they can turn it around and make, the deadline was a disappointment, etc. So.
And, as we get into speaking about disappointments, it's kind of a perfect segue into this offseason when we go through kind of the quote-unquote major acquisitions. It's a lot of the same thing. You think about bringing back Cody Bellinger, bringing back Paul Goldschmidt, bringing back Ryan Yarbrough, bringing back Paul Blackburn. I mean, name after name is kind of...
But don't forget now, this isn't the same team from last year.
Right.
This isn't the same
minus
team.
two guys, Mark Leiter Jr. and Luke Weaver and Devin Williams, minus three guys.
Yeah, they're not running it back. If you want to believe that the front office, they're not running it back.
Sure. Yeah, here's a bag of dog poop, but it's actually gold. Yeah, sure. Right.
Well, they are running it back just with 2 or 3 different pieces that hopefully will, hopefully, like when you look at it, we got Bednar and, say, Duvall, right, for the whole season instead of Devin Williams and Weaver for 3/4 of the season when they were pitching in big innings. So in that sense, and you got to add in, hopefully, and we don't know for sure, a healthy Garrett Cole, right? We don't know, even if he comes back healthy, like we don't know how he's going to be. Like he could be.
They said he's ahead of schedule too. Like they said, like maybe like end of April, early May, he might be back. That's a whole other ball game.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see him before June anyway, because if he's going to be put on the 60-day DL, I think that takes him to like May 20. I forgot the date, 24th or something, 27th, whatever the date is. So I don't think we're going to see him before that date, regardless of how good he's pitching or how good he is, which is fine. I don't care. You take your time. He's here for second half of the season and obviously a playoff start or 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever. So. But, yeah, I mean, they're running it back, but they're also running back a team that won 94 games. Like we said, one more game would have changed not the whole outcome, but would have changed a lot, I think, going into the playoffs, having that first round bye. But, yeah, it stinks. But here's the other question I always ask people, like, what were the big moves for the Yankees to make this offseason, right? They ain't signing Kyle Tucker at $60 million, right?
No, but they could have signed him.
They could have signed Kyle Schwarber.
Yeah, I don't.
They weren't saying there was no way. There was no way they were taking Schwarber.
Yeah,
they don't have a DH. How are you going to have 2 DH? They
don't
have enough
first
DH
base.
players.
No, Schwarber can't play first.
He's not.
Or they could have went and gotten Alonso. That would have solved it. Yeah, I would have rather have had that right-handed bat than Paul Goldschmidt.
I know, but they also like Ben Rice a lot, and they want him to play first base, right?
Right.
They would, and getting Goldschmidt, I think, was like, hey, you know what? You're going to play first base against tough lefties. maybe when Ben Rice catches once in a while too.
And you mentor Ben Rice and you teach him how to play first base.
Right. Yeah, let's hope. Yeah, let's hope. That was okay. Getting back to the offseason, that's why I wish they would have brought back Mattingly. Right, he would have been a great mentor for Ben Rice at first. That would have been great.
That relationship is so soured.
I guess
it's not even funny.
Yeah, it's got to be. Yeah, the bridges are burnt, and
it wasn't burnt. It was blown up with C4. Yeah, like there is no more bridge.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, no, I think, to me, when they brought back Goldschmidt, is especially hearing the reports that he took a lot less money and a lot less of an active starting role to come back to the Yankees. That kind of changed my tune on his, bringing him back, because he was given, basically a starting role with the Padres, and he turned it down to come back to the Yankees on just a $4 million deal, right? Knowing full well that Ben Rice is getting, playing 5-6 days out of the week, and he's coming in for, like you said, the matchup against the tough lefties, and there to be a mentor defensively to Ben Rice.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
Yeah, so I mean, when you think about, the moves that were made, obviously we would have liked to have seen something new, right? But not necessarily is something new always the best fit. And I think that, the more that this offseason has gone on, because I was feeling very much that same way, basically through the first 3 quarters of the offseason. But the more that I heard different players from the team come out and speak, and the more that you see that the narrative and the tone and the sound is the same, right? And I'm not talking about Boone and Cashman, because they're always going to tout, toe the company line, right? But when you hear guys like Jazz, right? And Jazz has always been an outspoken guy. He's always going to, speak from his heart, and he's not going to say the same, company nonsense, right? And to hear him speak about the fact that there's 4 MVPs, right? Now, obviously, 3 of them are no longer of that MVP caliber. But when you have that kind of pedigree and that kind of makeup on the team, it started to change my mind about the squad a little bit. And, as we get a little deeper into this, that'll kind of be evident through some of the different takes that I have. But, just looking at the squad, the new acquisitions, right? And this is my question to the whole team here, is what of the new acquisitions is the most inspiring or kind of intriguing, or the one that you're looking at the most as being potentially the most fruitful?
Well, obviously, I mean, Ryan Weathers has got to be the main guy, because he has that he could be a difference maker, because one, the health is always paramount with him, but if you take that into consideration, if he stays healthy as a starting pitcher, he makes it as a starting pitcher, that's something that you have, that's high velocity that he has, and they've already been working on different shapes and different pitches for him to add to the arsenal. So that's number one if he goes there. Now, if he doesn't work out as a starting pitcher, guess what? That high-octane fastball now plays up even more in the bullpen, and he can go into the 7th or 8th inning kind of guy. You can have him now versatile and put him into high-leverage situations, and you're not going to really have to worry about the health of his arm, because now it's like, oh, you're not worrying about him going about 100 pitches per every 5th day. Now it's like, okay, you can go 20 pitches today, 20 pitches tomorrow, maybe push him the 3rd day, which, the Yankees don't like to do, but there's a possibility of going 60 pitches in 3 days. Now you have something special. Now you have also, if you don't want him to go short, you can stretch him out. Hey, give us the long relief for 3-4 innings for here and there, and just go for it from there. So I think you're talking about your foreshadowing what you're talking about. For me, it's all about the pitching this year for the Yankees. He is one of the guys on the pitching side that I want to keep my eyes on, because of the pedigree, because of the lineage that he has, because of the fact that this is somebody that, if the pieces now fall into the right place, and the way he's talking this offseason, that he's changed his workout routines, he's changed a bunch of different things to be a starting pitcher, he has a shot at going into the season as the number 4 guy, even of number 5. But I think he's going to be penciled in as one of those guys to starting off in the rotation and give it a shot, and then see if he succeeds there while Cole comes back, and then we'll figure this out when those guys come back.
Yeah, I mean, what other new addition do we have?
The Mexican MVP. Remember, we were just talking about that.
So I'll be honest, it was very difficult to try and pick one of the acquisitions outside of Weathers, but I'm intrigued to see what happens with the first Rule 5 draft pick that the Yankees have taken in 11 years, right? In Cade Winquist, right? We know that he's got a big fastball that plays. And so it's going to be interesting to see what the Yankees pitching factory and Matt Blake kind of do with him. and see if this is a guy that's actually going to be able to stick on the roster. Because as we know, when it comes to the Rule 5 draft, if you don't leave him on the roster for the entire season, and we know how much the Yankees like their Scranton shuttle, so if he's not, then they have to offer him back to St. Louis. So I think that he's going to be an interesting and intriguing candidate to keep an eye on as well. We'll definitely see a lot of that.
The Yankees get money for getting him back too. I think it's like $50,000.
$50,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hal likes to keep his money too. So
yeah, no, for sure. But it's that Scranton shuttle for me that has it to be the most intriguing part of why they even took him. Right. So because we know how quickly they are to bring a guy in, he throws, 30 pitches and they send him back out. Right. So with this guy, they don't have that option. Right. And we know that he's got a big fastball that plays. So it's going to be intriguing to see kind of how he does, as far as the pitch mix and what Matt Blake decides to do with him. So I think that's going to be another guy to pay attention to. But like you said, Mark, a lot of it is going to come down to pitching this year. We kind of hinted at it already a little bit earlier, but the injuries, right? So there's quite a lot of injuries on this team that we're dealing with, especially to start the year. Garrett Cole that was mentioned, Carlos Rodon, Clark Schmidt, Cam Schlittler's dealing with some back inflammation, Chase Hampton, Anthony Volpe. I mean, obviously Cole is the big one in terms of the one that we're most anticipating the return of. But as far as these injuries are concerned, most of it is all pitching, right? And we know, as we just mentioned, pitching is going to be of a paramount importance for the Yankees this year if they're going to try and be successful. Of these injuries, which one are you the most kind of fearful is going to be a lingering thing?
Anthony Volpe injury is going to be the lingering thing.
That's just because you hate him.
No, forget. I'm going to take that off the table for a second because I can't wait to see him go back to AAA. But here's what I'm saying.
Not going to happen. But anyway.
Yeah, I know it's not going to happen. But even though Joel Sherman is talking about that's the possibility, the Yankees will give him the entire runway and then screw over Jose Caballero, even when Jose's batting .400 with 30 tanks and 50 stolen bases in 7 weeks. No, he's not the guy.
Oh wait,
All
you forgot Ryan McMahon. He's going to be the shortstop now.
Hey, it's only going to be for a year, I think, right? Because you got Lombard. I think will be here next season. I think 2027. We'll see.
Right, knock on wood. We have baseball next season.
Right. That's a whole other show. Right.
Exactly.
Literally tomorrow for us.
That'll be
that's not tomorrow's show.
That'll be a Thursday show.
Thursday show.
On
previewing
February 19th.
In the future already. but all seriousness about Volpe, I think that that shoulder issue is going to be something big for him, especially on the offensive side. Like, yes, he's had a lot of offensive issues to begin with. A very, very up and down type of player, which is not something that he was being profiled as. Like, he was supposed to, his calling card was going to be his bat, and obviously that's not what we see in the past 3 years from him. I think the shoulder injury is going to sap a lot more of the power, or whatever power he has had. It's going to take away from that power. So maybe in a sense, like, it might make him a better player because he can't always go for the home runs. Maybe he'll go back to the player he should be, which is singles, doubles, let the legs utilize the legs to actually create havoc on the base paths. So as much as I give him all the hate in the world, I'm trying to say that this injury might be a good thing for him, which is a weird enough thing to say.
No, for sure. And I think you're right, Mark. I think that, he came up and really got pull happy, thinking like, all right, I can hit home runs in this league now, and that's not really the type of player that he is, right? And, they like to make a big deal about the narrative story that's driven because of him and Jeter, right? If he were to actually take the Jeter approach, he'd be much more successful. Stop trying to hit home runs and just go the other way and use your legs, right? And I think that that's really the biggest thing, where if this injury could be a blessing in disguise for him, if he takes that to heart. Like you said, if he changes up his style, instead of trying to go for home runs because he can't hit them now, just go the other way and use his asset, which has always been his speed, right? So if that turns out to be the case, we may actually see a better version of him overall.
Right, but here's my one kicker with that, is that the Yankees have tried this in the minor leagues with him. They tried to tell him to change up his approach in the minors. He did it for half the season when he was in AA. He wasn't getting the results that he wanted. He switched back to the trying to be the home run kind of guy again, and that's where he stayed with. And I think that it's going to be a mindset for him that he has to change this. I think that I don't want to say he doesn't want to listen to what the coaching staff has to say, but it's already proven that he changed. He tried to listen to them in the minors. It wasn't working the way he wanted to. Okay, I'm changing back to what I like. Guess what? He came into the major leagues, hit 20 tanks, 20 stolen bases, and batted 207. So obviously that the hitting didn't work. Next season he batted 240, 249, I think it was, with less tanks, but had peaks and then had deep valleys. Then last year, we want to say it's the injury, but he doesn't have enough track record to really go down and say like, oh, the injury really affected his hitting that much. I think it's too much of he kind of does what Gleyber Torres did in the beginning. Gleyber Torres got really home run happy in the first two seasons, especially in 2019. Thought he was a home run guy. They deadened the ball in 2021. Guess what? He wasn't hitting anything at all, and he couldn't readjust the swing because he became a home run happy guy. I think Volpe is going to run into that problem at first. Hopefully, and I always say this now, hopefully that he will have someone turn around and the hitting staff will then take him and say, forget the home runs. You can run into your 10, about 10 of them. Just go the opposite way. Hit the ball, or hit the ball line, go line drives. Get on base, go gap to gap power. Guess what? Gap to gap power will give you stand-up doubles or if not triples any time of the day.
Yeah,
if he buys into it, then it's a whole different ballgame.
For sure. I mean, think about it. One of the most prolific home run hitters of our generation, and Ken Griffey Jr. said his goal every time was to hit a line drive over the second baseman's head. Mm-hmm. And more often than not, that turned into 603 home runs for him, was it? So, I mean, there's
one of the prettiest left swings you'll ever see.
The prettiest, without a doubt.
Yes.
I would have to say one of the prettiest because
I just said that. One of.
No, when I think of prettiest swings, you gotta have Bonds in the conversation.
Of course.
I mean,
yeah. Robbie Cano's swing was beautiful too.
Yeah, I love Robbie. Another injury that I think is concerning. I mean, not the injury, but even just coming back. I think fans have to remember Cole is not going to be Cole for a year. I mean, if the Yankees want to run it back, that's great. We won't even. I can rant in a minute maybe about that, but if they're counting on Cole, and I know they're not because they're smart. They're smarter than this. But if they're telling us Cole as fans, like here's Cole, here's Rodon, here's Schmidt. We're talking about 3 injured pitchers coming back to lead a staff to a World Series. Is that going to happen? I mean, I think that's something that we, fans need to keep in mind.
I honestly think Clark Schmidt's time in the starting rotation is over with the emergence of Schlittler and Will Warren, Luis Heel, and Shirley Cumming, we'll get to this in a minute, but Elmer Rodriguez is knocking at the door. So if Clark comes back, I think he's gonna find himself back in the bullpen as a long reliever.
At least this year, and maybe next. Listen, I think a lot's going to change too because I could see Luis Heel going to the bullpen as well, just as much, right? Because his stuff looks like it might be better for the bullpen, and he's got to prove himself too. He's got to prove that he could, handle 30 starts a year, 29 starts a season, right, or whatever. Yeah. And getting back to counting on Cole to come back or whatever. You got other guys. You got Max Fried, Schlittler, and Will Warren. All 3 of those guys threw their most innings that they ever threw. So how are those guys going to bounce back this year from throwing the most innings that they ever threw? That's another question mark I had coming into. Yeah, I mean, we do have great pitching depth, I think. At least rotation-wise. Bullpen, there's question marks, I think, obviously. We'll get into that too. But I think the rotation, if they figure out 5 guys, whatever that comes out to be, right? Question marks with injuries and coming back from throwing their most innings, all that stuff. As long as they have that solid 5, whoever that 5 might be, and hopefully they'll get that figured out by the All-Star break or even a little bit afterwards when everybody gets settled in and we don't see major injuries. Yeah, this is going to be a really good rotation. But, we have to get to that point, right? I think the first month or two is going to be, especially that first month, without Rodon and without Cole as well. And then hopefully, Rodon comes back first. Hopefully we'll see him early May. And then Cole, whenever he returns, hopefully by the All-Star break, we're talking about Cole, Fried, Rodon as our top 3. And then Schlittler 4. And then, I don't know, who's going to be the 5, you think, after Schlittler? Who do you think is going to be the 5 starter?
Will Warren.
I mean, there's a lot of options.
It's open. Here, you want a hot take? All right, I thought you were getting ready for it.
No, go.
My hot take is Lagrange is going to be the 5th starter after the All-Star break.
Okay.
Carlos Lagrange.
So you're banking on some injuries? You think there's going to be other injuries?
I think. Well, you're always going to have injuries.
There's always going to be injuries.
There are always going to be injuries. I think that when he comes up there, because his stuff is, Elmer Rodriguez's stuff is good, and he's a little bit more polished. But Carlos's stuff, dude, that guy is legit, and they're ready to pump. They're ready to push that guy, make the big push for him. Think that he's going, hit, because don't forget, Friday is Elmer Rodriguez is starting in the first spring training game. Saturday is Lagrange, so they're going to give those guys some run.
Yeah.
And they're both being AAA. They're both going to get run in AAA too. I think Lagrange gets up there, and I don't think he goes back down. I think that he's going to be pumping 103 miles an hour, and people are just going to look. And he's a big boy too, and they're going to look at him going, "What is going on here?" And understand this, like Lagrange is like 200 something pounds, I don't know how exactly, but he's over 200, but he's like 6'5". Elmer Rodriguez is 6'3", but like 160. So he's not that prototypical starting pitcher that could last the entire season. So I think ER might actually be more of a spot starter and then go into the bullpen and be another guy in the back end. So kind of like what you were saying, like get the 5, and then I think whatever that 5 is, that bullpen becomes much stronger because the rest of those guys will fall into places in the bullpen and make the bullpen a lot stronger.
That bullpen would just be absolutely freaking lethal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that is
without a doubt.
The plan. I think that's their mindset. Hey, whoever is healthy, the starter wise, and then you know what?
Just roll them back, and make that bullpen even just make that disgusting. Put a bunch of high velocity horses back there and just have fun. Let's go.
Yep.
You were saying about the bullpen, I think it was Picoda or Zips. I forget which of the two I was looking at, but I think it was Zips now. But they didn't rank they ranked the bullpen the lowest that they have in I don't know how many years. So if the bullpen became a strength, that would be a real surprise to the powers that be out there. I don't know that people would expect us to rebound in that way.
I don't really put a lot of stock in analytical nerds that have ruined the game. So that's just my thought.
I don't either, but I like to use it as a springboard just for my own.
I know. Not to dig at you by any means. I just hate
I know.
all these analytical companies out there that have never thrown a baseball in their life and think they know what they're talking about.
Right. No, I don't believe in them. I just like to use them as a springboard to think about different topics. But I wondered that about the bullpen, what you guys thought.
Yeah. No, I definitely think that could be a very interesting mix for sure. Now, as we kind of move into the next section here, looking at the potential 2026 X Factor, who do we all believe is going to be that difference maker for the team?
Cam Schlittler.
Why?
Yeah.
Look what he did in a short amount of time. I mean, what was there not to like? He's got his rookie season out of the way with. Now it's just building upon it. He came into spring training learning how to throw new pitches. He's been every clip I've seen on Instagram and X is him talking to Andy Pettit along with the rest of the pitching staff. I mean, it'd be kind of stupid not to, but yeah, just what he brings, and he's got what's of steel, and he just chucks it up there and goes, "Here you go, hit it." I mean, just seeing him strutting around on the mound against the Red Sox, even though he grew up in Massachusetts. So, I mean, that pretty much explains why you probably wanted to beat him so bad. But I mean, I think he's the difference maker in all of this because he was last year too.
I would caution you on that just for this one thing, because you and I have had these you and I had a few years ago had this conversation about Luis Gil after he had his rookie of the year season, came in and he was injured. Cam Schlittler already has came in with a back issue. So let's not put all that pressure on him. Let him be like you said, the third, fourth, fifth, whatever it is kind of guy. He doesn't he doesn't need to be.
Yeah, I'm not saying the organization is going to put any pressure. I mean, he could have injured his back sleeping the wrong way, like Ben Rice did. Apparently, they now need a sleep doctor to teach these guys how to sleep correctly without injuring themselves. It's ridiculous. So
I don't bubble wrap at this point, man. Jesus,
I don't think the organization. I'm not putting any pressure on. I don't think the organization is going to put any pressure on. I'm just what I saw last year and where it carried that team when they needed it. I think now he's going to be a solidified part of that pitching staff.
Oh, yeah, yes, I agree.
I believe he's going to be
with
a huge piece of that.
Yeah, and listen, what you're saying too. I don't think there's going to be a lot of pressure on him because think about
He's got all these other people around him.
Right, exactly. He's basically the fourth starter in that rotation at best, right? Because you're gonna have Cole. You're gonna, if everybody's healthy, that's the big if. But you're gonna have Cole, Fried, Rodon as your top three. So at best, he's your number 4 starter, which is great. This way he could just do what he's doing. There's no,
he's gonna start the season as the number 2, though. He'll start the season as your number 2 starter.
The first month, I totally agree, but.
All I'm saying about it is this: is that I agree with you guys 100%. I think Schlittler is a stud. Like, he's not going to be. He already is one. I'm just saying, like, we saw that everyone had the same talks about Luis Heel, and he was injured, and it came down to like, oh, this is what happens when it's injured. We could have Yankees could have gotten Kyle Tucker a year earlier, and they wouldn't give up Luis Heel, and boom, he comes into spring training and gets injured and is lost for half the season. So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. That's, try to hedge your bets. My thing is like hedge my bets because we just saw this. Right. Just ran through this whole thing.
Yeah,
Yankees don't have a good track record with injuries.
That is true.
Very true.
I mean, they don't have a crystal ball and know what's going to happen.
We can
You know what I mean? Luis Heel was injured prior to that too. Like the first year and a half, and they kept bringing him up and down. He ended up having to have surgery on, I forget what it was. I think it was his forearm or his elbow or something. Yeah. And so he had concerns going into it, but then they finally thought he was over the hump, and they had no idea he would get injured again.
Yeah.
Well, they pushed him too much. They gave him all those innings. Remember during that 2024 season, we would always do a thing like him and Clark Schmidt. They were going back and forth, like who's going to be the better pitcher, who's doing well, and you can see their numbers going back and forth. Then it got to a point like, look at the innings Luis Heel's putting up there. They're going to have to back off him, and then he started breaking down during that season. That's what I don't want to see for Cam Schlittler. Is like I don't want to see him. I don't want to see them doing something stupid of give him 7 innings like for the first 2 months of the season. And then, we're going to have to figure out how to back off of him, like when it matters the most, especially when the dumb Boone stuff starts coming into the play where they can't get a victory. And now you need him, but they're not going to push him that hard.
Right.
Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah, I mean, when I look at this team and I think about the X factor, and we kind of mentioned it, and to me, it's a twofold thing, right? I think Garrett Cole's the X factor, right? Because how he comes back and when he comes back from his injury is really going to loom large for this team, right? Because he could be coming back to a team that's already in the midst of the June Boone swoon before June, and then he's going to be looked at as the guy to come in and try and save us and right the ship, right? Or he could come into a team that's hot, as this team usually gets off to, and then he's the guy that can try to potentially help us sustain it, right? Being able to, and this is a classic Cashman line, acquire an ace with the return of Garrett Cole as an injury return is definitely something that I can see the Yankees trying to push as the narrative. But if he comes back and he is at that ace caliber form, that really is a big injection and a big boost to the arm of this organization and of this team at that point in time, where if he comes back, as Chris mentioned, getting put on the 60A puts him to the end of May, right, to come back, right? So you figure June is really when he's coming back. Yeah. That's when this team starts to skip a beat. That's when this team starts to falter. And if you can then have the guy who's your ace, who's the grinder, the horse of your staff, come back and be in a position to say, all right, yeah, we're stopping this right now, because I'm back and I'm putting on the Superman cape and we're going to run from here. That could really push this team into a different perspective, right? And a different light heading into the part of the season that usually is the most frustrating for us to deal with.
You know what? I'm going to go a little different with the X factor, right? Those totally agree with those guys too. I'll throw in 2 more pitchers. The back end of the bullpen, right? Bednar and Duvall. If we could get those guys to solidify the 8th and 9th inning, think about what that would have done for us last season if we had our 8th and 9th inning locked up like we've had in years past, right? So if those guys could be the 8th and 9th inning guy that hopefully they could be, I think that's gonna help out this team so much. When there's a lead, we're not gonna, like last year. Did anybody feel comfortable in the 8th and 9th inning, right? For us,
not till Bednar took over.
Right, exactly. So if we could get that starting from April, from day one in this season, I think that'll be such a huge help. That 8th and 9th inning. Duvall Bednar. If they could get that locked up, then you know what? The rest of the guys, we could work out the bullpen, right? Like you brought up Winquist, Tim Hill, all those guys, Fernando Cruz, all those, Jake Bird, Blackburn, all those guys, throw in the mix. Whoever works out, boom, they could work it out. But if we're 8th and 9th inning is solid, yeah, that's going to help out tremendously.
Yeah, I think. Actually, I'm going to go offensively this time as my X factor. I think Jazz is going to be the X factor for the team, because you're going to need somebody off the rip that's going to be one who can get on base, who's going to have to hit for average. He's got some pop, but he's also going to be your main guy that's going to be stealing bases for you. Him and Caballero are going to be those two guys. I would have, if Caballero was going to get a legitimate run at shortstop, I would say he could be the X factor. But I think talking really like headstrong on this one, Jazz is going to be there because he just had a 30-30 season. He could probably hit like 275 to 300 if he really tried. If he gets his head back in the right slot of, I don't need a home run swing every single at bat. I think going into this contract year for him, that he's going to do a lot more things. Like, he's not going to be the guy that gives up at bats with stupid swings. He's going to be out there driving the ball the opposite way, having really good at bats, trying to show that he's worth the $200 million that he potentially could get. But I think that's the guy that you need there, and I do think. I think that Yankees will put Trent Grisham at the leadoff spot, which I think is the wrong thing to do. I think Jazz should be your leadoff guy. If they do that, I think that it sets a precedent that he can show you what he's capable of, and go back to kind of having being a really good second baseman. Will take this a long way for him.
If Jazz wasn't such a free swinger, I'd be okay with him being the leadoff guy.
Yeah.
But remember this. Think of it this way. Juan Soto had the rep of all these things, right? Wouldn't steal bases, this, that, and the other. What happened last year? He stole the most bases he ever had because he got his bag. He's got his bag. Now he's stealing bases. Now he's going to be with the Mets. He wants to work on his defense. He wanted to work on his defense, become the more complete player.
Move to left field.
Yeah. Move to left field, all that stuff, right? Now, all of a sudden, you got Jazz, who's going to get a contract, knows that he's got a lot of baggage that comes with him. He's got to prove himself. I think this is why he's going to be the X factor, because there's going to be a chip on his shoulder, because he knows that he's playing for a contract that could be his one and only big shot.
Yeah. And you know what, Mark? To add to what you're saying, I think Judge said it yesterday or the day before in one of his interviews or the press conference that he wants to add stolen bases more to his game, or maybe, and that might be something that the team itself might be looking to add more to. So they might make these guys run a little bit more. Maybe Caballero run even more than what we've seen last season. Right now, we got him for the whole season, so things might change.
Yeah, I mean, surprisingly, Bellinger can steal bases.
Yeah.
I mean,
they had a great guy. They had a great guy who could have been a leadoff, but they're going to be sending him back down to AAA.
Yeah. That to me is going to be the biggest thing, right? And just to kind of fill in the gaps for anybody that may not have understand what you're referring to, Jason Dominguez. Jason Dominguez was my X factor last year, and they didn't give him the opportunity. And we've had this discussion before, on the Bronx Muchachos podcast, where if Jason Dominguez got the run and the leash that Anthony Volpe had, we would have had a much different team and a much different outlook. And you've mentioned it before, Mark, and I definitely just want to reiterate it here, but Jason Dominguez, to me, should have been playing center field. They never should have moved him to left field. He came up as a center fielder. He was comfortable in center field. He looked strong out there in center field. I mean, I had mentioned it before, but this could have been, and obviously not to put the overbearing comp on him, but this could have been the new version of Bernie Williams, right? Switch hitter in center field, being able to be a guy that had power, had speed. Like, this was a guy who in his major league debut hits a home run off of a future Hall of Famer in Justin Verlander, right? And this was kind of the calling card for the Martian. And then for whatever reason, the team soured on him after his injury. To me, that should have been the guy getting the run, right? Trent Grisham has been a fourth outfielder for essentially his entire career up until last year that he had some sort of revelation that I don't know anybody that actually believes that he is going to be able to relive that same, miraculous season. And I think
and mind you, it was like 2/3 of a season. It wasn't even a full season because he fell off the cliff last season too, and they stuck with him. And then they rewarded him with $22 point something million.
Yeah. And to me, Dominguez was a guy that absolutely needed to have been given that leash and that run the same way that they gave to Volpe of telling him, "Hey, you're the guy every day." And to think about the fact that and again, we've discussed this plenty of times, but the fact that the Yankees tried to hide Anthony Volpe's fourth strikeout that we knew was coming in the postseason by throwing Jason Dominguez out there, who'd been sitting for a month, and he goes out there and rips an absolute blistering RBI double in the gap, just to kind of shove it in their face, like, hey, I got this. Like, I don't need to be sitting here taking 1,500 at bats like Volpe and not being able to do anything with him. I just need the one shot, the one opportunity, as Eminem said, and he made everything worth it. But the team just won't give him that opportunity.
And they're rewarding him by sending him to AAA at the beginning of the season.
Right.
And the thing, and you know, the funny thing about Jason is that if you've ever watched his, especially obviously his minor league career, anytime he had a repeat, like he start off, you know, end of the season, say a high ball has to repeat high ball. Guess what? He's killing it. Goes up to the next level. If he has to repeat that, if you know, end of the season, he's got to repeat it. Killing that level. Like there's nothing else there for him to do except get the reps. Don't put Bellinger. Listen, don't put Bellinger in center field. Put Jason in there. You can have a bigger center. You have the most difficult left field in baseball in Yankee Stadium. That you will always want to have a second center fielder there, and then you turn around, and throw the kid there. Which one? Yes, his route running was never that great, but his speed made up for it. And guess what? He sees the ball better coming off the bat. I don't understand. The Yankees have these funny things of doing. Every other team could tell you that Anthony Volpe's not a shortstop. The Yankees are the ones that believe he's a shortstop.
Yep.
And so they'll stick him there. And going back to Chris's point earlier about George Lombard Jr. coming there, I can see the Yankees screwing that one up too, by the way, and putting George Lombard Jr. in the wrong position, just to put and keep Volpe and just screw that whole thing up. Just screw it all up to high hell.
I think what hurt Dominguez last year was the defense, and he couldn't hit lefties, right? He couldn't hit right-handed for whatever reason, and he's a natural right-handed hitter as well. Mm-hmm. So that made it even more mind-boggling, right? So I think those two things really hurt him the most. And then this year, of course, with the whole Grisham thing, giving him the qualifying offer, and they probably didn't think he was going to accept it, but they probably figured, all right, hey, we need a center fielder anyway. But I'd be curious if he didn't accept the qualifying offer, what the move would have been. Would it have been just, you know, put Dominguez out there and then put Bellinger in left, or I think they are. So the Yankees seem to be hell bent on Jason Dominguez not being a center fielder for some reason, for some stupid reason. I mean, go back to 2024, which is where I think they really soured on him, because they threw him into left field after his injury, after he coming back from Tommy John surgery, not giving him sitting in the minor leagues playing center field the entire time, then just throwing him into left field and into a difficult left field, putting him there, and then all of a sudden, oh well, his defense isn't that good, so we're gonna sour on him there. Oh, he needs more time. We need to do this, that, and the other. They should have just left him in center field. And I understand 2024 because they didn't want to put Judge in left field. They had Judge in center. Okay, I get that. Now now things have changed. They got Bellinger, they got Judge. They could have put Dominguez. They had Dominguez. They should have put Dominguez in center field. Bellinger and left. Let the two of those guys kind of cover as much ground as they can to kind of make the transition easy for J-Dom. And they didn't do it. They bobbled the ball yet again. So,
you know, I want to sort of my X factor was Bellinger, because I agree too with Cole as an X factor, but for the same reasons as Jeremy outlined. But Bellinger, I did a deep dive, on the numbers for the last 5 years, and what you're looking at is basically a roller coaster. I mean, Bellinger's not a consistent producer, and as back 2022 he hit 210. I mean, 2021 he hit 165. This is a player that is he has had some injury history, and that obviously has affected him, and his recent history is more consistent. But even most recently, is with the Cubs. They obviously preferred Tucker to Bellinger when they had the chance. I don't know. I think that the Bellinger, it's not like he's a prove-it guy, but he could easily be he could hit 260, hit 20 home runs. I mean, it's hard to say whether he'll replicate from what he did last season as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think that there's a lot of different ways that Bellinger could go. There was actually an article on our website, baseballbanterbroadcast.com, that I penned about Cody Bellinger. I'll leave it linked in the description below this video. But, there's a lot to be said about the roller coaster that has been, Cody's career, especially over recent years. But now, one of the sections that we kind of look at and touch on, and I'm gonna kind of let Mark take lead on this, but the top prospect, right? Mark is very well known for loving the prospects when it comes to the Yankees organization, and George Lombard Jr. is the guy, right? He is the top prospect according to MLB, and just kind of give us a little bit of a quick rundown on GLJ.
Well, GLJ, he's a shortstop out of Miami. Number 1 draft pick for the Yankees a couple years ago. He's got a legitimate shot to go through to make. I don't think he's got I think he could get a cup of coffee at the end of the season, but definitely next season he could be in the discussions, if not in the starting lineup. It's going to be a very interesting time for him because they are the minor leagues. They're beginning to move him around a little bit. It used to be just he was a middle infielder, play shortstop, play second base. They're introducing third base to him. Now he's in Double-A, but I do think that shortstop should be the spot for him going forward. If it was me, and if the Yankees do wind up keeping Anthony Volpe long term, then they don't give Jazz Chisholm a contract, you shift Volpe over to second base. You let George Lombard Jr. take over shortstop. Make it easy. Volpe's arm is just a wet noodle that can't do the job. Sorry, won't change. You can't get off there. But like everybody else, George Lombard's got some work ahead of him. He's developing power. They're working with him on developing the power in Double-A. I mean, he skyrocketed last year through the system. I mean, they ended the year before. He ended up in high A ball for like the last month, and then only spent maybe another month in high A ball this past season, and then went directly up to Double-A. And he was, I think, one of the youngest, if not the youngest kid in Double-A. So a repeat of Double-A this season. Hopefully by the All-Star break, or maybe even by June, possibly they can move him up to Triple-A. That would make a nice little Triple-A. Like, listen, if he gets up to Triple-A could be something special. When you got J-Dom, Spencer Jones, Lombard Jr. there, then with the pitching specs they got there, Hampton, LeGrande, Cruz, Elmer Rodriguez, Beck. You got Hess. You got I forget the other one's name too, but
Bryce Cunningham.
Yes, thank you very much. For some reason, I thought kept having a different name in my head, but Cunningham. Like, look at all those guys that could possibly be in AAA next year, or this coming season. Excuse me. So, yes, George Lombard Jr. is the top spec, but for me, I said it before, it's Carlos LeGrande is the guy to watch out for in the spec game. If depending on who you're talking to, like him and Elmer Rodriguez, they're flip-flopping as the best pitching prospect for the Yankees. I think, LeGrande, does he have the ability to be a Della Betances like they're talking about? Yes, he does. Could he kind of be a relief pitcher? Yes, but can they drool over him as a starting pitcher? 100%. And I think that's the game right there, is that you keep him as a starting pitcher as long as you can. I mean, he was pitching to Judge the other day, and he was striking him out on 102 or 203 mile an hour fastball.
Yeah.
This early in spring training, like, he's ready to go.
Yeah, he is.
He's 100% ready to go. He's over there. It's not like, oh, I'm just having fun coming here. No, he's there to prove himself and to prove, like, now I belong up here. I belong with this crew right here, not with down there. Keep me here. Take me north when we break for camp.
Now, as we kind of jump into a little bit fun section here when it comes to making a bold prediction, I want to hear everybody's bold prediction for the upcoming season.
Aaron Boone learns how to manage a baseball team.
No, that's a bold prediction for sure.
That's fantasy land right there.
That's fantasy land right there. Definitely.
I'm going to say the Yankees are going to be in the World Series this year.
I like that.
I'm super positive, so I know that's...
And I'm going to say they finished third.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my bold prediction.
So,
they're an Aaron Judge injury away from probably finishing last.
Listen, let's not put that in the universe, please.
Sorry,
let's
I know.
not.
I didn't even want to say it out loud.
No.
I don't think it'll be that bad without Judge.
So my bold prediction is that Aaron Judge will win the AL Triple Crown.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, I support that.
My bold prediction is that the Yankee pitching staff will have the best ERA in baseball.
That's a good one. So now, as we kind of take a look, and we've kind of discussed it all along, but I want to hear the thought on what's the biggest question facing the organization in 2026.
I think the biggest question is how to develop their young players at the major league level, because it seems to me like what we're seeing with Volpe, some of the others is like regression. I mean, Volpe's a Gold Glove. Comes up, does the, and it's not just Volpe, the other young players, likewise, it seems. I'm worried about Ben Rice. They're going to throw him over at first base, and Goldie is going to be a big help, though. That's encouraging that they brought in Goldie. But I think that it's a problem. They got to learn how to develop players once they get up there, not send them back to AAA.
Mine is management gonna set this team up for success? And what I mean by that is putting guys in the right positions on the field and offensively, playing to their talent, stealing bases, dropping bunts down, not pushing them too hard on the mound, knowing when to pull a pitcher out of a game, knowing what pitcher to bring in for what situation, and not relying on a computer printout from the nerds in the friggin' basement.
Yeah,
that's how you really feel.
So my question is, can this team hold on until the reinforcements get here? Right, we know that Rodon's set to be coming in to the end of April, beginning of May. Cole is probably end of May, beginning of June. They're probably going to slow play him, even though they say he is ahead of schedule. They're probably still going to slow play it. So can this team hold on until we get those reinforcements in? That to me is the big question that I see facing this organization right now.
They have to play damn near perfect baseball.
Right. So that's the question.
Plain and simple.
My question, I think it's a league-wide question, but we'll keep it to the Yankees. Like, what are they going to be willing to do leading up to the trade deadline? If they're in the same situation as last year or whatever situation, we know they're going to be in, right? So what are they going to be willing to do at the trade deadline or leading up to the trade deadline to make this team better, knowing you got next season, whatever's going to happen, right? With the looming lockout, whatever. We may not have a 2027 season, who knows, whatever. But with that looming, what are they going to be willing to do? And what's the rest of the league going to do? Like, it's such a, this year is going to be kind of nuts because we don't know how they're going to treat this trade deadline coming up. Are they going to right?
I think it's I think it's a double-edged sword now because of the expanded playoffs. We saw it this past trade deadline where nobody was making teams because they all thought they were in it. There were a lot of close wild card races that came right down to the wire. And now you're compounding that on top of what may or may not happen after the World Series this year. It's gonna be tough. Yeah.
Well, I hope that, speaking of the trade deadline stuff, I hope they bring back the non-waiver trade deadline, because I think especially with the expanded playoffs, you kind of need to have or push the trade deadline back to some, maybe into like.
You mean the waiver deadline? They got rid of the waiver deadline.
Yeah, that's the one. Like, either bring that back or push the trade deadline back until like sometime in August at that point, because at that point it's still too early to start really making big deals. When it is. I think going on with what Chris Northrup said before about development, I not only want to see what how the Yankees can develop the kids in the majors, but all through the minor leagues. There's a lot of stagnation that comes through their minor league system, especially on the bat side. I mean, they only have really a few bats in the minors, and it's well documented this past off season, especially that all the issues they had in Latin America. Mario, you have some new blood in there right now. I think that they're gonna definitely look to improve relationships throughout Latin America, and then I know that one of the new guys that they just hired, Matt Slater, he's got a lot of connections in Japan and in Asia, in the Asian market, and they're going to get back into that market as well, which is something they should have done this past off season, which they didn't. Don't know why. It doesn't make sense, but that's neat. That for me, that's more of a Hal issue than it is a GM standpoint. But I'd like to see them from the DSL through AAA really, really hammer down, get themselves into a good spot of developing a full system and a full pipeline of kids coming through all the levels, progressing them, getting them into the spots they need to do, and then figuring out, hey, they're going to make it to the bigs, or we're going to trade them off. Because the pitching wise, like, Yankees are probably one of the best teams that they're developing pitching.
Yeah.
And they're at the point right now where it's like, if the Yankees are willing to give up the pitcher to you, there's a reason why that they're giving up the pitcher. So
yeah, it's kind of what the feeling was with the Rays a few years ago. If they were willing to make a trade for a guy, that you had to start to
what's
question
wrong
why.
with them?
Yeah. We used to know Lindsey Crosby for years. He was doing a lot of prospect stuff, and we would talk to him, and he would say, the Yankees are in the Dodgers and the Rays category of, if they're willing to give you somebody, you need to go through. You need to figure out why they're going to give them to you, because there's a reason for it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think that kind of leads perfectly into what I feel is the biggest frustration, and I'd like to hear your guys' take on it. I think the biggest frustration for the fan base right now is management, right? Both from an on-field perspective, from a front office perspective, and even all the way up to the main decision maker in Hal Steinbrenner. I think management has kind of become the biggest pain point for the fan base. Would you guys agree with that take?
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
Yep.
I think there's too many voices. I think there's too many voices that Hal has in his ear. You have Brian Cashman, and you have Brian Cashman's co-GM Aaron Judge in his ear, telling him the people to get. And there's a difference between Aaron Judge, the player, who for the most part is 99% can't go do anything wrong, but Aaron Judge as the GM has not done a really good job. Like he whiffed on not getting back Soto. Wanted Goldschmidt on the team, wanted Grisham, wanted Bellinger, wanted to run it back with those guys. Oh, Alex Verdugo, yes, we wanted Alex Verdugo for years upon years upon years. Like, how many of these things has Judge wanted on this team? The Yankees have done, and you can see that it's not produced for them.
And the other thing I don't get either, watching his press conference at GMS Field the other day, no disrespect to our boy or anything, but speaking out of both sides of his mouth, saying, "Oh yeah, it was frustrating to sit around and wait. Like, are we gonna get anybody new?" And it's like, bro, you're the one out there telling them to run it back with the same damn team. Now you're saying you're frustrated because the team sat on their hands all off season and didn't do anything. So which is it?
Yeah,
which is it?
Well, I think what he was saying is like they should have gotten the deals done early to get new stuff, but
it's a bad look, man.
The Yankees should have gotten it all done early, but at the same token, they should have got new blood. They should have pushed the envelope.
I get what you're saying. It's just a bad look for the face of your franchise to say, I want to run it back with X, Y, and Z player. They run it back with X, Y, and Z player, and he turns around and goes, well, what the hell is this? I was like, am I living in the Twilight Zone right now, or am I literally hearing this?
What it does is it shows how dysfunctional this team is.
Yeah.
Management down, because then you have Hal who's sitting there going, doesn't want to spend money and is openly out there talking about wanting to have the salary cap going into next season. And I know we're not talking labor stuff, so I almost went down said the wrong word there, but you have that. Then you have Cashman who goes out there and is the meat shield for Hal, which is what he's supposed to do. But you don't have something concise coming out there. Oh, we're Cashman's out there with the challenging trades that are out that he's going to try to make. Well, didn't make any challenging trades at all. Ryan Weathers is not a challenging trade.
They gave up a bunch of nobodies. Well, in retrospect, we don't know what they're going to become. I mean, my opinion, prospects are suspect until they prove themselves, but they basically got them for a box of baseballs by comparison to what we have in the system. And it was just like, oh, okay, well, that doesn't move the needle for me. Cool, whatever. But yeah, like I was saying, it's just a bad look. It's just a bad look to be saying one thing and then go and turn around and say another thing 3 months later.
Right. Well, like I said, it's a total dysfunction of this team.
Yesterday, Colin Cowherd, I know he's a pain in the
Can't
ass.
stand him.
I can't stand him. But he said this. He said it used to be the Yankees were the most aggressive team in baseball. Now they're not the most aggressive team in their own division. That's Toronto. Or even in their own city. That's the Mets.
I mean, I wouldn't really consider grabbing your 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th, 31st, 32nd, 33rd, 34th, 35th, 36th, 37th, 38th, 39th, 40th, 41st, 42nd, 43rd, 44th, 45th, 46th, 47th, 48th, 49th, 50th, 51st, 52nd, 53rd, 54th, 55th, 56th, 57th, 58th, 59th, 60th, 61st, 62nd, 63rd, 64th, 65th, 66th, 67th, 68th, 69th, 70th, 71st, 72nd, 73rd, 74th, city rivals cast-offs as being more aggressive. I mean, like I said on one of our past shows, the Mets are the best friend that sit around and wait for you to break up with your girlfriend, and then they start dating your girl.
Right. Exactly.
I'll make this analogy until someone proves me wrong. I mean,
listen, the Mets
and they did not do a good job of hiding that fact this offseason.
The Jays have a different, not payroll, but they have a hugely different amount of money than Steinbrenner does. Steinbrenner is not as rich as those guys. Like, they could take the risk all they want, and if it doesn't work out, it's like, all right, who cares? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why I agree there should be some sort of a cap.
There needs to be a salary floor. I'm sorry. I think there needs to be more of a floor than a cap.
It needs both. One doesn't work without the other. So I totally agree. So that I'm not arguing about. But
I don't want to. Just one more point about this. Like, they need to find a way to close this loophole that the Dodgers are exploiting if they really want to solve the problem that's going on. Because that will essentially act as a salary cap if you're not allowed to defer money. Like, the Dodgers have deferred, like, what, $2.5 billion?
Yeah. It should be a percentage of the contract. If you can't defer, whatever. It should be only a certain amount. But
there's other teams that deferred. I mean, don't forget the Red Sox deferred Chris Sale's contract for
Manny Ramirez also.
Manny Ramirez.
They're not the first ones.
Max Scherzer deferred money. Like, Strasburg, I think, deferred money. Like, a lot of people deferred money. It's just what the Dodgers did.
Most obvious. They're the most obvious.
Right. They just turned around. They took it to another level. They just
spent money, man. They got that Guggenheim money, man. They don't care. Jerry made back Shohei's contract in one season.
Yeah,
from Japan, everything in Japan, they just made money. They're hand over fist. They're making
money to burn.
Yeah. Literally. And let's not forget, the king of deferrals are the New York Mets. Bobby Bo is still getting paid.
And tacked on another 3 years.
Don't forget,
he'll be getting paid
before they tacked on those 3 years. He was going to still get paid after Fernando Tatis Jr.'s contract was done.
He'll find a way to still be getting paid after Shohei's deferrals are done.
He's a gangster, man. Sitting around making $1.5 million a year, not a care in the world. 60-something years old. Good for him.
So as we kind of move into the next section here, as we get towards the close here, we're going to look at grading out the offense for the 2026 New York Yankees. So what kind of grade would you give it, and why?
I'd give it a C+. I'm just being realistic. I mean, these players are a year older. It's the same offense that was on the field last year. And Chris said earlier about them, and Michael Kay saying, "Oh, this team won 94 games." Yeah, how many of those 94 games were nail biters, extra innings, games they had to come back and win that they were winning by the 7th inning and blew the lead? I mean, a lot of those wins were not pretty, man. I mean, it was pretty ugly at some points.
Not just that, but Dave, how many of those wins are against really, really bad teams? Like, there's a lot of times that Michael Kay will talk about the run differential. Like, how many times do they blow out teams? Like, really bad teams. They were
not many times. I mean,
they blew out teams. They blew out
but then they would turn around and
really bad teams.
Then they would turn around and get swept by the Miami Marlins in 3 straight games in Miami too. So I mean, it went both ways. But yeah,
but I'm saying run differential is that they blew out teams. You know what I'm saying? Like, they were blowing out. Yeah, they were blowing out teams like 10-0, 11-0, whatever the case may be. They weren't really getting too many blowouts on theirs. They weren't getting blown out too much. But that's what I'm saying. Run differential that Michael Kay likes to talk about is that, they had the best run differential. That means nothing if all you're doing is crushing the really crappy teams. But then you can't turn around and beat the Red Sox. You can't beat the Toronto Blue Jays. Really bad. The Yankees were really bad against like the playoff bound teams last year.
Yeah. So, like I said, I'm giving them a C+ until they prove me otherwise at the beginning of the season. Like I said, they're all a year older. It's the same offense, and we don't know what we're going to get out of a few question marks in that lineup. So that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I have it at a B-, so basically the same. I think when you have Judge on this team, as we still look at him as being a player in his prime, it's kind of hard to give them anything less than a B attachment at some point. I mean, you think that this is a guy who over 3 of the last 4 years has hit more than 50 home runs, right? So this is definitely a guy who I think at least this year, maybe next year, maybe the year after that, can still kind of put up those offensive numbers. And if we can get even some semblance of what we saw from Ben Rice last year, again this year, I think, like Mark said earlier, I think Jazz is going to have a really good year because he's going to play with a chip on his shoulder with something to prove. And if we can get anything else, remotely positive out of the rest of the team, I think that there's a lot of room there for improvement, obviously. But I think that there are some, standouts that could be had this year. So for me, I give it a B- in terms of the offense.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I mean, obviously you got Judge. That's the no-brainer on that one. You mentioned before Ben Rice, Jazz. I mean, those are probably your top three guys. I mean, you never know what you're really going to get with the Stanton because he goes through his peaks and valleys as well. He'll be on the injured list for 6 to 8 weeks at some point this year as well. Ryan McMahon, I mean, pretty much unless he's hitting a home run, he's pretty much useless with the bat in his hand.
Yeah.
Trent Grisham, I'm not so last year he had two-thirds of his season was great, and then he fell apart. And is that the kind of guy he's going to be? He's going to be a two-thirds kind of guy again? That's not worth the $22.5 million that you're now stagnating the defense, other kids that should be playing instead of him. Austin Wells, he's another guy that kind of needs to show something this year as well. Like that's someone we haven't really talked about, but this is year 3 for Wells, and he really does need to show. He needs to show something at this point. Like he's gone through his ups and downs. He goes through massive slumps throughout in the middle of the season, and then comes back a little hot, and then goes back in the slump again. So maybe getting that dad strength now is going to be doing him some good.
I don't know if he played in the WBC before this year, but I do think that that's going to be something big for him. Being in real game time situations this early in the season, I think will be a benefit for him going forward into the regular season.
I also think that with him playing on Team DR, it's going to be a very good feel for him. But just the guys on that squad, they're all hungry, they're all gamers, and I think that could rub off on Wells in a big way, and he can bring that back to the Yankees this year. And not to mention that there's going to be guys on that team that he's going to be able to study up close and help the Yankees in terms of the defensive side of the ball as well. So I think that part of it as well is an underrated aspect of Wells playing for Team Dominican Republic in the WBC.
Yeah, I'm gonna go B+. I just think I just think the lineup is going to be just as good as last year. The bench is better this year, so I think that makes the lineup better. Right? You're not going to have Ryan McMahon playing against the tough lefties. Right? You're going to have Rosario probably getting a lot of starts at third base. You're going to get Goldschmidt in there too, only against lefties. You're not going to see him against righties where he was horrendous last year, right? Yeah. And you got to expect Ben Rice to be just as good as last year, maybe better, right? Judge is going to be Judge until Judge starts to tail off, and let's hope we don't see that for a few more years. Judge is going to be Judge. He'll be in the MVP conversation. Stanton, I look at it this way: if he's healthy, he is what he is, right? He's going to hit your a little more than occasional home run, maybe if he could stay healthy. But if he doesn't, we're going to have Dominguez up. He's going to come up and he'll be playing every day. So I think we're going to be fine with that as well. I think that's the good thing. If there is a good thing with having the Dominguez down in AAA, that he's going to be the first guy coming up if someone's hurt, whether the outfielders or Stanton. That's the first bat coming up. That's a pretty good bat that we're going to be able to bring up if someone gets hurt. Obviously, you're not going to replace a guy like Judge, but if one of the other guys gets hurt, that's a pretty good replacement. So I think the lineup's in pretty good shape. Volpe is going to be Volpe, whatever, so I'm not even going to count him. But
I stopped counting him years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I'm kind of on the fence with him because he works hard and all that. So you do want to see him come up and get back to at least his rookie season. I'll be happy with that, but I don't know if that's going to happen. And I think Wells. I think you hit it. I think Wells playing in the WBC is only going to make him better. Last year he hit 21 home runs, 70 ribbies. You know what? For a guy that's batting 8th or 9th, I'll take that every day of the week. I'd like to see his average up a little bit, obviously, get on base a little more. But, hey, if he hits 20 home runs and drives in 70, 80 RBIs out of the 8 or 9 hole, you can't really ask for much more than that, So I'm pretty good. I think this offense is going to be pretty good. As long as our big guy stays healthy, the lineup's going to be good no matter what. So I'll give it at least a B+.
Well, I gave it an A-, which is, I think, probably inflated now that I listened to you guys. But I was thinking, when I looked at this team last year, it was the 3rd best offense in MLB. by total, wins above average or whatever. But, we talk about the long stretches of not hitting and of the offense being frustrating because they do go through these deserts, but still they were first in runs scored, first in home runs per game, first in OPS. I mean, that's pretty good. And we're running it back. So it ought to be good. I don't know. I'm going to give it an A-, and even though I say, I'm feeling a little pessimistic. I do think the offense with Judge, as long as Judge is the linchpin, there's this offense to me, has possibility.
And now flipping to the other side with the pitching staff, what do you grade out the pitching staff?
A+, just based on, guys coming back and how that bullpen can look when those guys come back. That will jettison, expendable parts like the Ryan Yarboroughs of the world. No disrespect to him. He was a great innings eater. I just don't think that he's anything that stellar compared to what we have coming back. And I just think overall pitching-wise, we're in a lot better position than a lot of other teams in our own division and the league.
Yeah, no, I agree. I have it as an A overall. I think, like you said, with the returns of Cole, of Rodon, further down the line, a guy who can come out of the bullpen and get, multiple outs if needed, and Clark Schmidt, not to mention what we're going to start the year with Fried and Schlittler, Will Warren, for as much as he was kind of frustrating at times and was kind of, middle of the pack, if you will. This guy went out there and made 30 starts last year. Luis Heel, Ryan Weathers, we've discussed earlier. These are guys that are probably going to get pushed into the bullpen when Cole and Rodon return. So I think when it comes to that part of it, obviously having Bednar and DeLaw, as Chris mentioned earlier, at the back end of games, if we can get something out of, the Rule 5 pick, if we can get something out of, Yarbrough was an innings eater, like you mentioned, Dave. I think that there's a lot of possibilities with this pitching staff that people are kind of overlooking. And I think to me, and we're going to get into divisional rankings in just a moment here, but I think that's probably why the divisional projections have us ranked so highly and kind of, looking at the team as an overall, a lot of it is going to be predicated on pitching, as we mentioned earlier. So I think very highly of this staff, and I think that it's going to be what kind of carries us through the year.
Yeah.
I think our staff is a tale of... Oh, sorry. Go for it, Chris.
No, I was just going to say, I'm with you guys. Hey, easy. And the depth, that we have, like Mark mentioned, the two young guys are going to be right here as well, probably pitching at some point. I think it's an easy A. I mean, unless guys start to really tail off or whatever, or don't pitch well, like Bednar and Duvall, things could really go south, especially in the bullpen. But yeah, I'll say, hey, easy.
I think it's a tale of two different ends with there. I love the potential that they have a potential of being an A, especially with Cole and Rodon coming back. But I also get a little gun shy. I mean, I remember Rodon being injured the first year with the Yankees, and he didn't have a full spring training, and it was a really bad season for him. Does that happen again for him? You don't know what kind of Cole you're going to get back here, and don't forget, he's a starting pitcher, so he's going to go through dead arm period as well after he returns. Can he weather that storm too? So you have a lot of question marks. We've said before, Warren, Schlittler, Max Fried, they've had the most innings they've ever pitched. How will their arms bounce back? You have Ryan Weathers, who has always had injury problems as well. How is he going to react? How's Luis Heel going to be? Is he coming in there in the best shape? Can he withstand it all? Like there's a lot with the potential upside of an A+. There's also the downside. The floor could be like a C or even lower. So there's kind of like there's a big variation of what can happen. If it hits the Yankees should be promoting all this. They could have remember back in the day when they had all the aces on that team. They had El Duque, they had Pettit, they had Clemens, they had Messina at one point. They had all those pitchers, David Wells in that group too. All the aces they used to have. This could be something even better than what they had back then. But this also has the opportunity of being something of a nightmare for us this year if injuries stack up, if they don't come back from injuries well. So
right.
Yeah.
That's where I'm hedging my bet. We're saying like it depends. It's a wide variety. Like everything hits right, then the sky's the limit for them. They come back and have problems. It's like, oof, it could go ugly quick.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But you know what? You could say that about any team.
100%. 100%.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
except for the Dodgers, for some reason they figure it out.
Yeah,
They had a whole team's pitching staff on the IL, and they still won the World Series. Like,
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
They're just deeper than everybody
yeah,
else.
they have depth on top of depth. You know, they have like 15 starters, and like they're a great example, right? They signed who they signed to be their closer, Tanner Scott, right?
No,
Yeah.
Edwin Diaz.
No, last year they had Scott. Last year they had Scott. Didn't pan out. They just got Diaz instead.
There you go. Crazy.
Yeah, just pivot.
Now he's on the bench for $15 million. Tanner Scott. He's a setup guy now. If that.
Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah.
Long relief for him now is what they'll do.
Yeah. and then he'll find a way to bounce back. I mean, and he'll be a lockdown guy in the 5th, 6th, and 7th for them. Like, makes no sense. Now, as we kind of bring it down to the end here and looking at the divisional rankings predictions, so Fangraphs and Pacoda have it a little different, both as of February 17th. So yesterday at the time of this recording, Fangraphs has the Yankees in first place in the American League East at 86 and 76.
No way, bro.
And Pacoda has the Yankees in second place in the AL East at 88 and 74.
You're going to need at least 95 games to make a run in this division. We saw that last year, the year before that. I don't think anyone's won the AL East with sub 90 wins since the late 90s. And I don't even think the Yankees even did that.
Yeah.
And weren't the Blue Jays and the Yankees like neck and neck? Yeah, the tight.
Same record.
So
last year, yeah. And so, well, with Pacoda, let me pull up the rankings one more time here real quick. But when I looked yesterday at the rating, at the projections, they had the Yankees and the Blue Jays essentially the same.
That's what I noticed, yeah.
Okay, so as of today, February 18th, at the time we're recording this, the same exact record. 88.8 wins, so 89 wins and 73 losses for both the Yankees and the Blue Jays.
It's not going to happen.
I don't see that.
No way in hell.
So what would you say then is the spot in the division? What's the record?
I would say, so I got two different thoughts about this. Had they not re-signed Cody Bellinger, Jay, you and I talked about it, this team was looking at 4th or 5th place. Now with bringing Bellinger into the mix, I'm more in line with them being a second place team because the Red Sox did beef up their team quite a bit, and they're going to be the wild card, well, not a wild card team, but the wild card in this division as to how they're going to play this season, barring any kind of crazy injuries that come their way. But with Bellinger being back, I'd say second place at 95, 96 wins.
So how many wins are you thinking?
I think it's going to take at least 100 to win the East.
Whoa.
That's tough.
I think totally different than that. I don't think they're going to win less than 90, but I don't think it's going to be 100. I think it's going to be the low 90s is going to do it because you got 4 really good teams in this division. And Tampa's not bad either. I'm not selling them short at all. Trust me, I'm not. But those top 4 teams, right? The Yankees, Blue Jays, Orioles, Red Sox, you can make an argument for every one of them to win the division right now. If you like going into the season. Obviously, we don't know about injuries and all that, but all 4 have really good teams. So I don't think either team is really going to run away with it. So I think they're all going to kind of be bunched up. Like last year, right? 2 were at 94, then Boston was 89, then Tampa and Baltimore. But I mean, Baltimore's much better. They have to be much better than last season, right? They're not winning 75 games. So, but I don't think the Central's going to be as good. Maybe the West is not as good, but I don't think anybody's going to win more than 93, 94 games in this division.
Seattle's going to make the West interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's Seattle's division to lose.
Yeah,
right. Absolutely.
Right. How much better is Oakland? The A's are going to be. How much better are the Rangers going to be? So, but yeah, getting back to ours, I think those top 4 teams are all going to win, between 88 and 94 games. Like they're going to all be together. I don't think anybody's running away with it. So,
I went with the higher wins because of that reason. With there being 4 stacked teams in the division, you're going to need those couple of extra wins to solidify it because any one of those other 3 teams can go on a run like that and run away with it.
I agree. I think all four teams are going to have really great streaks in there because they're that good. They got the pitching, they got the lineups. So I don't know. It's going to be a tough division. I mean, listen, we're talking Yankees, so we're all Yankee fans. So I'm going to put the Yankees first, but not by much. And I think Toronto's going to take a little bit of a step back, not out of the playoffs or anything. But you know what? I think losing Bo Bichette is going to be number one. And number two, like, everything worked out for them last year, right? They went on a great streak. They played great. Everybody was playing great. You know, and then obviously, when you play the Dodgers, if everything doesn't go right, you're going to lose. And two breaks obviously went their other way, and that's what cost them in the series. But I don't think everything's going to go right for them like it did last year, right? So I think they're going to take a little bit of a step back. Maybe they'll be the wild card. And then, I don't know, Boston or Baltimore. That's going to be, to me, the race for third. If I had to place I'll say Baltimore, then Boston, then Tampa.
I kind of think the Yankees are going to... I don't think they're winning the division, unfortunately. I think they're finishing third this year. I think that I think Toronto, even though offensively they're taking a step a little bit backwards, I think pitching wise they're taking a step forward. And they had a pretty good pitching staff last year, so they're just making that pitching staff even better. So I think that that's something for them. The way that they play baseball is they are a very contact-oriented team, which threw the Yankees for fits. That, you know, Schlittler kept on having to throw more and more pitches just because they kept fouling them off. The Red Sox, let's be honest about one thing. Like that Red Sox-Yankee series could have gone a different way if the Red Sox had Roman Anthony playing for them. Yeah. Like it could have been a whole different ballgame in that series. I think a full year of Roman Anthony for the Red Sox is going to be a big difference maker for them. They beefed up their pitching as well, so that's going to be something to look forward to. Yankees, obviously, their pitching is the headliner for the team. You know, outside of Aaron Judge, obviously. So you know, it's funny enough. Baltimore took some. They got Pete Alonso, which is good because they needed the right-handed bat in that team because they got a lot of lefties. But man, I like that team a lot. I think Gunnar Henderson is the number 2 shortstop in the league behind Bobby Witt Jr. And I think that they have some studs there, and they still have extra stud. They still got guys that are coming up to play, and I don't even know where the hell they're going to put some of them. Like Samuel Basallo, I have no idea where they're going to play him now. Yeah. Is he going to be the DH? Is he going to be? He can't play first base because of Pete Alonso. They still have Adley Rutschman there and he's the main catcher. Where are they putting this kid? And this kid could do nothing but mash all over the place. I mean, you have a lineup for them that you talk about a quasi murderer's row. Like their first 5 guys, maybe even 6, most of them are left-handed and can smash the ball. They can all smash that baseball, which is going to be nuts. So, you know, you leave balls out there, you put those cement mixers to them, and you're not seeing the baseball again from the Orioles. And you know, I think they're going to be the number 4 team. And then I'm saying the Rays 5th, and it's kind of like an offhanded comment to them because they're not a bad team. It's just that I think that all the other teams have really stepped up their game and did something really to kind of separate themselves. But the Rays are always a sneaky team. Like you count them out every single year, and they do something that will always get you like kind of. They're always in the conversation, and then they'll do, you know. And I think hopefully the new ownership for the Rays will kind of elevate them a little bit and make this division like really the beast of baseball that it should be. Yeah. Because at some point now, like the Rays, I think after the labor agreements happen, after all that happens, I think that the AL East will become the epitome of what baseball should be like. 5 teams that are going to go to war against each other every single year. There's there shouldn't be any more of this. Oh, well, we have small money now. We're the small market team. We have to do money ball, and we have to do this and analytics and this, that, and the other. We have to trade our guys like 2 seasons before their free agency, whatever. New money has come in there, and I think that in a new ballpark for them, their revenue should grow, and that should be really that'll make every single year fun, and it should, honest to God, force Hal to really invest and say go for it from that point forward. I think the Yankees will be number 3 with like 89 to 91 wins.
So I'll kind of close out the divisional thing here with just saying that Bakota has all 5 teams at 81 wins or better in the AL East. And so for me, I think that, and again, this may be a little bit of biasness. This may be a little bit of being swayed by all the conversation, that the players have had about the team and about the clubhouse and the camaraderie there. But I think this team finishes in first place. And I think that they're going to run it back again with 94 wins. I think that they're going to be in a position where the Blue Jays are going to take a step back. And even though I do think that their pitching staff got better from a starting perspective for the Blue Jays, you never know what you're really getting from Dylan Cease. Shane Bieber hasn't been the same since his injury. You're not sure what you're going to get from Cody Pons coming back to the States. So there's a lot of questions there. I mean, Jose Barrios hasn't bbeen a legitimate threat since he got traded over to Toronto. So there's a lot of question marks to me for that rotation. Kevin Gausman, for as good as he is, and he usually pitches one good game against the Yankees, and the rest of the season is usually mediocre at best against us. So I think that when you look at what this squad is going to be, I also think that it's a different team for them, right? And for as much commentary as Yankee fans have had all offseason about the running it back, the loss of Bo Bichette to me is going to play very much a big factor for the Blue Jays that they're not necessarily taking into account. And they brought in some other guys. They brought in Nakamoto from Japan, to take over at third base, which is going to be a solid addition, I do believe. But, you never know how that new chemistry, that new clubhouse is going to fit, right? And by all accounts, as Chris mentioned, last year was a magical run for them. And going into this season, you can't expect that same magic, right? And, by the same token, we're running it back with the same team, and you can't necessarily expect that the same things are going to apply, right? So the absolute bewilderment of the way that we played against the Blue Jays, you can't expect that again in back-to-back seasons, right? The only sure thing about this game is that it's always changing, right? And so even though it's the same team, it's the same squad essentially that's going to be run out there every single day, there are differences to this team. Starting the year with Jose Caballero, and as much as we think that as soon as Volpe's healthy, he's getting yanked from the lineup and Volpe's going back in there, it's still a different team, right? You have Jazz, who's going to be playing with a chip on his shoulder, as we mentioned earlier. And I genuinely believe that Jazz is going to go out there and probably have the best year of his career because he's playing for something more than just, going out there to play the game that he loves to play, right? This guy's playing for a contract. He's playing for his livelihood going forward in an offseason that is going to be very, very unsure. So the one thing you're going to want to do in this offseason especially is go out there and have a monster year. For as much as we don't expect Trent Grisham to run it back and have a season similar to the 2/3 that he had of last year. This is another guy that is playing for a contract, right? Because the Yankees aren't going to bring him back again. They can't offer him another qualifying offer. So he's playing for a contract in this upcoming season. And, we've kind of been hinting and dancing around it, but the lockout is likely coming. And so it's going to be very different how this season is approached by all parties. Front offices, teams, players, agents. It's all going to be out there in a different way than what we've seen before. So I think that for this team going out there and, in potentially what could be the last season in a long time, depending on how this lockout potentially goes, the Yankees are going to put the best foot forward. And I think that, the other part of this too is, as much as we've spoken about Judge playing GM, he's got a chip to prove as well. He's got a chip on his shoulder and something to prove as well, because this is a guy who made the claim of wanting to run it back with this team and believing in this team. Now you got to go out and put up. So I think that there's an opportunity for this squad to really be in a position to be successful. So as we kind of bring it to the end here and kind of just reiterating the name of the episode and name of the show and the series here, but where do you see the state of the Yankee franchise in 2026?
Transitional. I think it's a transition. I think the state of the franchise is so hear me out. I think that we are coming. I think that Prime Cole is done. Okay. I think we're coming to the end of Prime Judge. Maybe he's got another year after this year, maybe another year, maybe two max, right? So I think that the Yankees invested heavily in the quote unquote baby bombers, and that kind of failed on them. Glaber didn't pan out. Gary Sanchez didn't pan out. Greg Bird didn't pan out. Severino didn't pan out. All those guys didn't pan out. The only one that panned out was Aaron Judge. And with the exception of 1 year, they've pretty much wasted his career as a Yankee. I think that they are beginning to make a transition into finding who they're going to have as long-term options for them. I think Ben Rice is obviously someone who is in their plans for the long term. I think that they want to see who else is there. I think that they're finally now, this offseason is the first time ever that they are not having conversations of Anthony Volpe as the long-term solution at shortstop. I haven't heard much about what they're saying about Austin Wells, but there has to be talks that he might not be the long-term solution at catcher as well because of the peaks and valleys. They're already talking about Jason Dominguez and Spencer Jones being back down in the minor leagues, and they're not talking about those guys much as the potential of an outfield duo. So I believe that what they're trying to do right now is trying to gather what pieces they're going to keep, and then where they're going to begin to fill in the rest as they move forward, and as they try to put a new group of youngsters together, or their new core that they're going to try to fit in and get together. And I think right now what they have is they have the pitching, and they have the pitching depth to do it throughout the system. They got to find the bats. And will it be a George Lombard Jr. being in there? Will it be a Dax Shelby? Because we haven't talked about him. He's another one that could be on the rise and go through the system quickly. His bat is going to be something good to watch. He might be he might be the second baseman, third baseman type of guy. Who knows? They still have to find outfielders out to play the outfield. Judge, like you said, Judge isn't getting any younger, and at some point he's going to have to transition to DH to save his body. So that's 3 outfield positions they're going to have to look at. I mean, granted, they have Bellinger for 5 years or whatever the case may be, and he's got the opt-outs, but who says he doesn't? Who says he sticks around that long? I'm betting he will, but who says he does? You're going to have to figure all that stuff out. So I think that this is going to be the beginning of a transition for them. I think you're going to see the pitching staff be the first kind of turnover that's going to happen. Like they're going to start bringing the youth into the pitching staff, and they got guys. And we're talking about bullpen. We never even mentioned some of the bullpen arms that they do have in the minor leagues, like Thatchel Hurd. I'm really big on him. That he came from he's an LSU product, so I know he can pitch coming from the SEC. So he's a bullpen kind of guy, so he can move through that system, be in the major leagues. You know, he had Tommy John Surgery, so he'll be at the end of this year, possibly next year. So there's guys that are coming. So we don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. And you see, as Garrett Cole, as Rodon, as Fried, as this guy, as that guy, they kind of move on out. You can just start replacing them, and it's just the bats that are worried. That it's worrisome to me.
I would say at worst they're a wild card team, at best a division winner. It's just gonna depend on what happens when opening day gets here. It's a bit of an unknown, but like I said, I don't think I get what Mark's saying about them being in transition. But when I think of teams in transition, I think of teams like the Pirates, the Reds, the Royals, the Rays, the Orioles, teams like that. They're not a 500 team. Something would seriously have to go very wrong for them to be a 500 team. Like I said, at worst, a wild card team. At best, division winner. And you know what? I agree with both. David, I totally agree. I think worst case, they're one of the wild cards. Best case, they win the division. And Mark, with you, think about this. The next, outside of Bellinger, Judge, Cole, Cole, I'll say it this way. Cole and Stanton are going to be gone in 2 more years, right? Mm-hmm. Their contracts are over. Judge has
same with Rodon, I think too. Rodon leaves in that same time frame as well.
Yeah, he's got a little bit more, but Fried's going to be here a while. But other than that, who's going to be? Stan's
done in 27 at the end of the year, if there is a 27 season. Right. So this might be it for him.
Yeah, so think about it. A lot of these guys are not they don't have that nucleus going forward outside of those 5 or 6 guys that we just mentioned, right? So I think you're absolutely right. The pitching looks like we're set. I think the lineup is where I'm more concerned about, right? Because Volpe was supposed to be that guy, but like you said, they're not really saying he's the shortstop now. We got to hope that Lombard comes up next season and shows him, oh yeah, this is the guy we're going to build around. He's going to be maybe he is the face of the franchise after Judge retires in 5 years or whatever it's going to be. So I'm hoping that, and maybe that the other guy, Kilby, he's another guy. He's smacking the ball. Hopefully that's a guy that they're going to bring up, in about 2 more years. He might be the guy that they can build around too. But like you said, the previous baby bombers didn't quite work out the way they wanted to. So, yeah, this is definitely a transition, and it's also a season that we got to start questioning what's going on, right? We've seen what happened with the international free agent market. We lost how many guys, right, that we were supposed to sign. Then the next day it was like, oh, the guy backed out of it. Now they got a whole new guy heading up the operations. They want to get more into the Asian market now, which is great. I don't know why they waited so long to do this, but it is what it is, right? So, but yeah, this is kind of not transition. I don't know if that's the right word, because when we hear about transition, yeah, we think of rebuilding teams like St. Louis or Pittsburgh or whoever. But the Yankees are definitely going through something, and they got to figure out like who's going to be that part of this nucleus going forward outside of who they got. So we'll see.
What's going against them in the Asian market is too, they don't do a very good job at trying to market New York to Asian players. I feel Los Angeles is a hell of a lot more attractive because of how many legendary Japanese players have played there. I mean, Ichiro alone was the king of the West Coast at one point. Wow. But it's easier to get to Japan from California. It's not easy to get to Japan from New York City. And there's a lot more there's a lot more money out in California than I think there is in New York. And they do a better job at marketing the West Coast to Asian players than the East Coast does.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Historically speaking.
Yeah. It's easy to market the West Coast just because of the time frame and the flights
proximity.
But yes, you're right, the proximity. But don't forget, the Yankees did have, Matsui. They did have, Tanaka. Like those guys wanted to come here. So there's, and don't forget
two guys.
Well, so they've had a Rabu. They've got
Keigawa.
Not that guy.
Had to bring him up. Want to come here, but they got guys that came here. Is what I'm saying.
Right.
And don't forget, like it's now not just like they're going to the Dodgers or they're going to the West Coast. Like there's a lot of guys that went middle America.
Yep.
Yeah,
I mean, this offseason alone.
Went to Chicago.
Okada went to Toronto. You had Imai went down to Houston.
Right.
They're kind of bouncing away from being on the West Coast. They're exploring more. They're moving more towards the mainland or moving more to the other coast. So,
yeah, I mean, you think about Seiya Suzuki with the Cubs. You think about Murakami that went to the White Sox. Imai that went to the Astros. Okamoto that went to the Blue Jays. Yoshida a few years ago went to Boston. I mean, it is expanding beyond just Shohei pulling his friends over to the Dodgers.
Yeah,
but you're right. They got to do a better job. They have to do a better job to attract them. I don't know what they got to do. For me,
they hired Matt Slater. Matt Slater is Mario Garza's number 2 guy now, and that in and of itself is going to. And Matt Slater, he had 18 years with with St. Louis, doing a lot of the international stuff for them, player development side of it, but did work in Japan, so he has a lot of relationships in Japan. And there's a big article out in the Athletic stating that one of the focuses that Mario Garza has. They want to get back into the Japanese market. They want to get back in the Asian market. So that is going to be a focal point for them coming up with whatever the next group of guys that are coming in. They're going to make a big push to get some of them over here. Maybe that's where it starts, and they have the Japanese contingent that comes over to the Yankees team. They dive back, they get Harvey back into that market as they begin to develop their minor leagues again. Yeah.
So as we kind of bring it to a close, I think that. As much as we've seen a kind of a bit of a dichotomy as we've discussed here, the 2026 New York Yankees, and there is a range. There is a range of potential opportunities. But if we get the magical run in 2026 that the Toronto Blue Jays had in 2025, I think this is a World Series caliber team. I think that when you look at what is possible with the returns of Cole and Rodon to the rotation, and obviously assuming health for the entirety of the offense, taking in and believing in a big year out of Jazz Chisholm, believing that there's a potential offensive player in Anthony Volpe when he returns. I think, a big season from Aaron Judge could, potentially lead to his 3rd straight MVP, his 4th in 5 years, and what should have been his 5th overall. And I think that this is a team that if everything goes well, everything goes right, and they have that magical run, they can find themselves in and winning the World Series. I genuinely believe that after really examining this club in a serious way. So I want to thank the panel for joining me here on this video. Chris, we want to thank you for joining us. Let everybody know where they can see more content from you and your co-host.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it. Had a great time with you guys talking Yankees tonight. Yeah, you can find us at YouTube, NY MLB Talk. You can find us at Twitter and TikTok at NY MLB Talk. Follow myself at CP7NY on Twitter as well. My co-host Rob at Armorosca on Twitter as well.
So we appreciate you jumping on with us, and obviously I want to thank my guys here at the panel from the Bronx Muchachos, Mark and Dave, and as well as Chris from Northrop on the north side. We definitely want to thank you guys for joining us. As always, if you're following us and watching along here on the YouTube side of things, make sure that you go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube, as it does truly help us continue to build and grow this baseball community here on the Baseball Banter Broadcast. And we want to thank you guys, and we want to hear more from you down in the comments. What are your thoughts on the 2026 New York Yankees and where they end up? Let us know those thoughts down in the comment section below. But for the panel that has joined me here tonight, we want to thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you guys on the next video. Peace.